welcome everybody to today's episode of the Family Business Podcast. I'm your host, Kobe.
And I'm Ryan.
Sweet. We got a cool topic today. We're talking about chasing your dreams. And this kind of came about because you actually saw a video on TikTok.
Mom did.
Mom saw it?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Right on. Yeah, so we watched it this morning, and it's a really cool song about chasing your dreams, and there's some cool stuff in here, but I'll press play on this real quick.
It's a great song.
It is good.
I hate this job, man, I'm shot. But it pays the bills, so why not? And I know I'm all that they got, but I keep asking God, when will all of this stop? 'Cause I don't wanna go ahead and tell my kids to chase their dreams, and I ain't even chasing mine. I guess a man's gotta do what a man's gotta do sometimes. I can't hide myself. I don't expect you to understand. It's not about how you...
That's it. I'm sure there's a longer version somewhere on this.
Well, the song is by Dax, and he even does has a featured artist with Darius Rucker, and it's incredible. So I'd recommend go listening to that song. But this is a fan who interjected his own lyrics in with the music. And so that's what this little thing is. And Dax loved it, so he shared it. And so anyway, it's that little section by the fan, which we'll include a link to this in our description and bio and all that stuff so you can check it out. But it's a man who just talks about his crappy job. And when Mom sent it to me, it really had an impact on me. And I want to talk about this today because this is the whole point of this podcast, is the family business, and being in business is a family ordeal. And there's some emotional things here. So watcher be warned. This could be an interesting one. So, but I want to start by saying this, Kobe, don't shield my feelings or don't try to gloss over anything on this, because when we started our business, so I'm an odd duck, I would say, but I have dreamed about having my own business since I was in high school, but I was never really quite brave enough to do it.
Yeah.
And I mowed lawns. I did those kinds of things. Sure. And I had entrepreneurial pursuits. And I was, even in the jobs I picked, I was still entrepreneurial. It's because I was a salesperson. I was an independent contractor a lot. I didn't have a salary most of my career. So I fed into that piece a little bit, but I never really chased my own dream. I either wanted a partner all the time because I was afraid to do it on my own, or I would just dabble in something, and then when it didn't quite go super well, I would just quit doing it. It wasn't ever my main pursuit.
Yeah.
So when I was 38, 39-ish, somewhere in there, I got basically let go. I wasn't fired. They just came to me. I had a lot of key leaders leave. I've talked about that, I think, in the last video. It was really hard. And they said, hey, we'll keep paying you to rebuild. We'll give you a year to do so, or you can take severance and leave. And I knew it was time to leave, so I left. But at that point, I was like, I've talked about owning my own business for so many years. It's either now or never. I'm going to be turning 40 here soon. And so we went off on a fool's errand, if you will, for about a year it was actually almost 2 years, because I was still working at Living Scriptures. They needed someone to fill spots. So I just moved into a sales role and said, I'll finish out this season. We were in our busy season, or getting into the busy season. So I said, I'll finish out this season, and then at the end I'll move on. But I'm not going to hire. I'm not going to do any of that stuff. I'm just going to maintain what we have, make sure people get to where they're going. And so they appreciated that. So I was able to continue selling. So during that time, I was looking for my next best thing. And of course, the easiest would have been go get a job, because we had a salary, we had income every 2 weeks,
You're used to that paycheck coming in every couple of weeks, and it's just normal.
We had a decent income. We had nice vehicles and live in a nice home. I always say this home came from Living Scriptures, not from our own business. So the first business that I tried failed miserably. And we dumped about $85,000 into it. Some of that was cash we'd saved up because we had been working hard and saving money. And then some of that was debt that we took on. And anyway, it bankrupted us. It was really bad. But in the process of that, we also found the magazines. and or started the magazines. I didn't find them, but started the magazines, and that started to work. But at the same time, you were 12, 13, 14. I was 38, 39, 40. And from a kid's standpoint, you're not experiencing the same things that your dad's experiencing or your mom's experiencing.
Yeah.
You're in junior high. You're trying to be cool.
Yeah.
You definitely don't want to dress like a bum. You know, you want to look sharp. You want to fit in. This is not an argument over whether that's a worthy pursuit or not.
Right.
Like, it doesn't matter,
Sure.
but at that time it matters.
For sure. As a
to you.
13-year-old kid, that's what you're thinking about. It's
For
top
sure.
of mind constantly.
It's definitely high on your list. So I'd like to hear from you during that journey, some of the feelings you had, and what your impressions were of the whole thing. Because today I'm actually a different person.
Yeah.
And you're a lot older too. You mature a lot during that, during those. It's been about a decade,
Yeah.
been about 10 years, 10 years, somewhere in there. So, so tell us what you experienced.
For sure. Yeah. And I'm going to kind of dig a little deeper into the beware notice a little earlier. I'll tell kind of some of the, initially what happened what I remember from when I was like 12 and 13.
Yeah.
And then also we had quite the fight. When I think I was 16.
16, yeah.
I was 16 and we had a big fight about some stuff.
Yeah.
So I'll kind of dig
And you
into
were
that a little bit too.
man-sized too.
Yeah.
at that
I was,
point.
yeah.
Spelts grow early, so
For sure.
he was done growing at 16. He's the size he is now.
Yeah. Yep.
So
But I actually remember when you had the idea for the magazines.
Yeah.
We were driving on the freeway.
Going
and
to
you were
Lake
like,
Powell.
You were like, holy cow, I had an idea. And you called Mom right away and just started
Oh
talking to her
yeah.
about,
I picked you up from
EFY.
EFY.
Yeah. You were taking me there.
Or taking you there. That's
You
right.
were dropping me off. And then you had this idea. You're like, what if I did, because you had done them in
you
Las
were with
Vegas
me.
and you saw a billboard or something like,
I did see a
it
billboard.
like triggered something in you. And you were like, we should do
I have no idea what
magazines.
the billboard was, but it was a
No
billboard.
idea, but I remember driving past it, and then you were like, you just had that epiphany. But yeah, so obviously junior high, it's kind of a stressful time because we had gone from making pretty good money to where it wasn't like if I need a pair of shoes, I could come to you and say, hey, my shoes are getting bad. Can we go get? And that was like, okay, like we could just go do that. We had a little bit of extra money. We have a big family. So
we had a company car, we had a sweet truck, so I think my salary was $100,000, and then I made somewhere between $25,000 to $35,000 in bonuses. Plus I had insurance, so we didn't have to pay anything for insurance. That's a pretty big chunk. Plus I had that company paid for that truck, and they paid for not all my fuel, but my fuel. They paid about half my fuel. Probably I used all of that for work, but anyway, to give you kind of an idea of where. So my total comp was probably in the 150 range. Estimate. So
yeah. But that goes quick when you have a family of 7. We have 5 kids.
For sure.
It's still spread pretty thin.
And this was also pre all the inflation too, so it felt better back then.
Felt a lot better.
Yeah, it was
a little more money.
Yeah, it was a lot.
But yeah, I just remember going like that transition from like, okay, we have a little bit of money to like, holy cow, we can't pay for anything.
Right.
And
we're broke.
it was, it has all kind of melded together in my head. But I remember like being in school and kids making fun of me because I only had one hoodie, or I had like this beat up old pair of shoes that I'd wear every day. And they were just buddies being jerks. Like thinking back, I'm like, I shouldn't have cared at all. Like, who cares? But
this is traumatic for your mom. She has talked about it many times.
Yeah.
You came to her and asked if we could buy you a new hoodie.
because I had one hoodie.
Had no money. We were just so broke, and she was just like, "No, we can't," and it made you so mad.
Yeah, I was a little mad about it, and probably I was
deservingly.
Well, not deservingly. Like,
I mean, it was hard
for sure. I think it was I was just feeling that stress of wanting to be cool, wanting to fit in with all my friends, and then as we got a little bit older, like it just seemed like the struggle was just. I mean, it's been a long journey with Connection, and so like it just felt like things weren't getting better. Things were just super hard for a handful of years. And at this time, I had turned 16. I had a car. I was driving around. And then I was also working too.
Yeah.
Part of this whole situation where you guys, didn't have money to buy me stuff made me, in hindsight, I'm like, that's awesome because I went out and started mowing lawns. I would knock doors trying to clean people's headlights, like all these weird little things that I didn't realize would be super useful now and that I'm super grateful for. But in the moment, I'm like, gosh, I got to pay for my own like school supplies. And I got to buy all my back to school clothes. This sucks. And
so interestingly, though, I've pondered on this exact part, and that is all of my kids, all of you, are hard workers. And I attribute some of that. I think, I try to take credit for some of it, but I actually think most of it came from the fact that we just simply did not have money.
Right. Yeah.
And all of you wanted stuff. And so you all started working.
And we're all very self-motivated too. That's the other part of it, is we're willing to go out without somebody telling us to do it. So that helps quite a bit.
Yep.
But that kind of ties into, I love the quote, strong men make easy times make weak men make hard times. And it's just a cycle. It's the same thing. It might have been a little rough in the moment. It might not have been wearing as cool clothes as my friends, but in hindsight, I work way harder than all those people.
You learned how to make money.
Right.
You learned how to work hard. You learned how to have a little business. You learned how to be motivated, go make sales, because you guys went door to door.
Yeah.
You were like, how do we get more customers? I'm like, I don't know, go knock on people's doors.
Yeah, so
you did.
Yeah.
And I was like, sweet. I think we made some flyers for you at one point, and you just took them around. I can't remember.
Yeah, for the lawn mowing, I think. And then we would just find little things for me, but I wasn't afraid to go out and knock, which is probably not a very common thing. I was willing to
Wasn't it called like Lapotus's lawn mowing or something?
Should have been.
That's a story for another time.
Yeah, I think so. But kind of going into, I guess I'll dig into kind of the fight. The fight thing that happened. So at this point in time, I'm 16. This was like really a stressful year for you guys. I think it was just kind of a tough one. And you were in the middle of some big things that were happening. Things just weren't quite going your way. So you're stressed to the gills.
Well, it was like the third year in a row. The first year, we didn't have connection. So that was a struggle year because we were trying to figure out what to do. And the business that I bought a franchise. Yeah. And that business just was not going well. I don't know if it just wasn't a good fit or not a good business or what, but I failed at it. I take all responsibility there. But that was year one. Then year 2 and 3 of connection. I think year 1 we made 19,000, and then year 2 we made 17,000. So it actually went down. We did more business, but the business cost more money, and so we made less money. So we were at the peak of our how do I do this and provide for my family? This isn't working.
Well, and then on top of that, you're also working like 80-hour weeks, like just the craziest hours, and then not making any money. That's so stressful. And then
that's what they say, right? Entrepreneur is the only person willing to work 80 hours a week in order to avoid working 40.
Right. Yeah, it's so true.
That's me, yeah.
Right. But I think, that just kind of gives you some context into the times. Like it was very stressful. Yeah. And at that time, I was actually working HVAC full time. So I was
with Howard, who we've talked about.
Yep. And it was just kind of a summer job in high school, but I would go out and, install furnaces and ductwork all day. And at this point, we were just about to go on a family trip to Vegas. That's where you're from. That's where your family still is. So we were about to go down there. We were just kind of packing up, and it was the next morning, I remember, that we were supposed to leave. So I had just turned 16. You had gotten this family car. It wasn't my car, but it was a car that I was supposed to take care of.
The Honda?
The Honda. I was supposed to do the maintenance and stuff on it, pay for all the gas and stuff. But you were like, you can use this car as long as you have good grades, which I never had. So.
And you still use the car. So.
I still use the car.
I wasn't super
you weren't super strict on that one. Yeah. But yeah, so I get back from work, and it had been a long day. Like I was just beat. I remember I think I was crawling around in like an attic all day or something. I was just
still the
so
grunt.
tired.
You still had to do all the garbage.
Yep, because I was the greenie. I was the youngest one on the job site, so they'd send me into the crawl spaces and attics and stuff. Anyways, I'm, dead beat, tired, and then I get home and you say, hey, come up to my office or something. There was a check engine light in the car, in the Accord. Oh. And you had been trying to get me to take it in for like a week or two, however long that the light had been on, because you're like, this is the family car. This is not your car. You got to make sure you're taking care of it, which makes sense.
Yeah.
I was like, well, we're about to go on a week-long trip to Vegas. There's no rush. The car's going to be sitting here. I just worked all day. I don't want to run the car over there, which isn't that far, but I was just being lazy. I was just done for the day. And you got really upset with me because you had told me a couple times, which was fair. It was fair enough, but I think all the stress too had built up.
Both of us were running on fumes. So.
Both of us were running on empty, and the stress of the time, like everything just kind of, it was an amalgamation of everything all at once. Yeah. And we started kind of getting, yappy at each other. You were yelling at me, and I was pissed because I was like, that's not fair, dude. The car's just going to be sitting there. It doesn't matter. Like, and you were just like, you just wanted me to take care of the car and get things done and do it, not wait and procrastinate things, which has always been something that I'm not very good at. I'm really good at procrastinating things.
Unless you really want to do it.
Unless I really am motivated by something.
And then everybody else better freaking come to you and help you with it because it's really important.
Yeah. That's just kind of how it goes. But yeah, I just remember we exchanged some words, and it was in the heat of the moment. Yeah. And we were talking about. And
fairly enough too, our relations were a little bit strained anyway. You were a typical teenager. Yeah. And you were expressing your independence, and you were making your own choices, and I didn't agree with all of them. And there was a lot of frustrations as a parent, but of course those frustrations, I wasn't a great communicator, so I'd just be annoyed with you instead of saying, why are you doing this, this, and this? Those aren't, everybody who's been a parent of teenagers knows what I'm referring to. It's a challenging time, and if I was super wise, I'd know how to handle it better. I didn't. I just was emotional about it,
Maybe. So. Right. I think, there was just a lot of tension. Yeah. Like, there was already some tension, and then
layers.
A stressful.
This is an onion of tension.
Right. It had been building for a little while. Yeah. And then, anyways, we're saying some stuff, and I remember you talking about how hard you were working, and I was like, well, why don't you just go get a real job? And I was like, just pissed off because I think I was just mad in the moment, and I wanted to say something to get under your skin and hurt your feelings a little bit because I felt hurt and I felt attacked. And
it worked.
And it worked. And you were definitely mad. And then we actually got in a little tussle and ended up on the ground. And Mom comes in running.
If I remember what happened, I was just done with you. I was like, get out of my face. And so I just was pushing you out this door right here in my office. And it wasn't a push, shove you hard as I can. I was just scoot back, and I'm going to shut this door because I got other stuff to do. And
I thought you were trying to hit me because
really?
I was kind of getting in your face, and I was like, let's talk about this, dude, because you were pissed. Yeah. And you were just like, get out of here. I don't want to deal with this. Yeah. And you were busy. You were working. Yeah. And so
this is my office. This is where I work every day.
But we were standing right here in this doorway, and I remember that push kind of came to me, you pushed me, and I was like a hot-headed 16-year-old, so I'm getting up in your face, looking up at you still, but no, I'm not leaving. And then you kind of pushed me, and I took that as I don't know. And it was just kind of the heat of the moment, and I pushed you back, and we just started shoving each other, and then.
Well, you came back at me, not with fists necessarily, but it kind of shocked me. I was surprised, and I tripped backwards, and we went to the ground. There
was a whiteboard here. I don't know. I think we ended up getting rid of it because I grabbed you. I grabbed you by the shirt because you were trying to push me. I was trying to push you back. And then we spun around, and I just was like, I don't know what to do. So I just rammed you up against the whiteboard, and you had to get rid of the whiteboard because the whiteboard was bent.
Bent, yeah.
It had bent. And then we ended up on the ground, and we were fighting, and you kicked me out. We were swearing at each other.
It wasn't like punching, fighting. It was more like wrestling.
It was like wrestling. Yeah, we didn't actually hit each other or punch each other. We were just tussling. And the girls, I didn't know this, but my siblings all ran outside in the front yard. They're hugging each other, crying. Mom's up here yelling and crying at us.
Stop it!
She's like, stop it! And the girls are outside crying. I think Gray was too young to even recognize that anything had happened. But you kicked me out, and I walk outside, and I called my girlfriend at the time. I'm like, you got to come pick me up. And then you were so fuming mad, and you shut my phone off because you paid for my phone at the time. So you shut my phone off right as I was on the phone, hanging up. So my phone just lost service. And
Another great parenting
moment. Oh, you're freaking kidding me. I was like, gosh. And so I got mad, and I was like, I have $700 right now. I'm just going to go buy my own phone. And that started a whole thing. Funny enough, we're in the Spelts family, I think we're extremely good at talking through things, maybe not right in the moment.
Right. Once the emotions passed.
I had to come home that night for curfew. And so I came home, and we talked a little bit. And then we had a big talk the next day because perfect timing. We were going to have to sit in a car together for the next 8 hours driving to Vegas. And so we sat down and talked about it. And I felt terrible about saying those things because I knew I didn't mean it. I never meant it. I just wanted to say something to jab at you. And
Just that.
afterwards, I was like, man, I felt terrible for saying that because I didn't want you to think what you were doing was wrong. I still believed in the dream of what Connection Publishing was, you know?
Right.
But I was just frustrated because I felt like I was kind of on my own in a lot of ways. Now looking back, I realized it's not true at all.
Yeah.
It just kind of felt like that because it seemed like all my friends, they had money, they had nice cars, they had, you know, like their parents. I remember I had to like pay for some of my own school fees. And one of my buddies was like, he was like giving me crap for that. And so I just like felt the stress from like
super hard
other people. And in high school,
Especially
it's such
at
a
that age.
weird time where that, for whatever reason, how much other people's parents make is like a big thing.
Super
Social
first world
status.
problem, right?
Right.
Like,
shouldn't matter at all. And
I mean, there's kids who can't afford shoes, literally can't afford shoes.
I know.
You had shoes, you just didn't have 2 pair of shoes.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Right. And it was just me being a teenager wanting to fit in. But I don't know, what's kind of your side of that?
So the interesting part about it is what you said to me did have a serious impact, primarily because I was already in full doubt mode on whether, like,
Right.
am I doing the right things? Like, my family, I just wasn't providing. And I didn't just do this. Like, I had side gigs for the first like 5 years of doing the business. I always had a side gig. I still do, but they're our businesses now. But at that time, I sold cookware. I sold life insurance. Nothing that I was passionate about, really. I just wanted to have a little bit extra income. I needed that little extra income. So I had several different side gigs during the time we were building Connection. But I was super, what's the word? Just self-conscious. Like, you talk about imposter syndrome. I was like, maybe I just can't do this. Maybe I'm just not a good enough business person to, you know, develop this company, to create something from nothing. You know, that's a value of mine that I really love entrepreneurs, because they create something from nothing. They have to go out and create every sale and create marketing and create a sales pitch and create a product and whatever it is. So I find it to be fascinating. I actually have some deeper feelings towards it. I think I've told you this before, but I call God my creator, right? And I feel like that's one of the names that God loves, is being a creator. And I feel like as his children, we should also try to be like him and also be creators. And I think a lot of times people end up in dead-end jobs, and they end up not pursuing their passions and the things that they love because of money.
Right. Back to that song where he's talking about he's working this job because it pays the bills and he has to provide for his family, but he can't tell his kids to live out their dreams if he's not living out his.
Right. And but even deeper than that, like, I've really encouraged you and your siblings, and Mom and I have value this highly, is to create, to use your talents. So we have been your number one fan on your art since you were young. And
So I was like 5.
I remember thinking, he is going to bankrupt me. This is when we had money on paper alone.
Just buying paper.
For paper, because I would buy you a notebook, and I'd like 3 or 4 days would go by, and you'd be like, I need another notebook. And I'm like,
rip
what?
through notebooks like
Those
crazy.
freaking notebooks are expensive. The art paper notebooks are expensive.
They're not cheap.
And so I just remember thinking, we're going to go bankrupt on paper on this kid. I'd give you a ream of paper, and you'd use the whole stupid ream.
The whole thing. And I've still got like, I think there's I think lots of it has just kind of gotten lost over the years, but I've still got stacks of paper downstairs in a box of just like sheets, like
Drawings.
Entire reams of paper just filled with drawings.
Yep.
But
So that's part of that creator piece. If you're a musician, create music. If you're an artist, create art. If you're whatever, you know. And so our kids are creative because of that. So I believe that's a standard. But that doesn't mean during that process I felt like, because that's what we are. We're creators. You know, we create content in our magazines. We create content in marketing. We create content to market our business. This is creation.
right.
So all of those pieces, even though you look back and you can see all these things that you've done over the years, what I don't have is an ability to look to. I remember in those moments feeling so inadequate, so insignificant, such a failure. But what's interesting is talking to people from the outside. They're like, "Wow, it's amazing what you've done," and I'm like, "This has been blood, sweat, and tears constantly." And there's a look in people's eyes when you know that they've been through it and they've actually experienced what you've experienced. Mom and I talk about it all the time. We're like, she has the look, or he has the look, or whatever. We know when someone has struggled and has felt the pain that we felt, and the worry about providing for your family. And I feel it even right now. Your sister's getting married, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is not the time.
Right.
Because we've had a rough, after prices increased with Connection, we've had a rough couple of years.
For sure.
Extra income has not been very
weddings are definitely
plentiful.
Not cheap either.
Yeah.
And she's very high maintenance. Not necessarily high
She's
maintenance,
being
but
really cool about it, though.
Is she?
Yeah.
That's good.
She's really
I had a
wanting to
feeling
save
she
money.
would, because
Yeah.
she's just awesome. Cameron's
Yeah.
the best. We're going to have her on soon.
Yeah, soon.
We need to have her on. But she lives up in Logan, so it's kind of tricky to match
Get
up
her down
time
here.
errands.
Yeah. But I think that's where I was. I was feeling that inadequacy. I've learned a little bit better to appreciate what we've done over time.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's an important piece. There's a very successful businessman here who was doing some business consulting, and I signed up for some of his stuff originally. I didn't ever actually go into it. But I remember his name is Kent Whipple, and owns Whipple Service Champions. It's a pretty big company around here.
Huge.
And he, as we sat down one of the times, I was just expressing how frustrated I felt, and this was probably in year 2 or year 3 or something like that. And I was just so frustrated. And he said, well, stop for just a second. He's like, I want you to think about 1 year ago today. And I think it was February, which it's February right now, but I think it was February. And I thought back to the previous February, and he's like, are you in a better spot today than you were last year? And I said, well, yeah, I mean, we've grown a bunch. We've had this success, that success, but I'm still not where I want to be, And he's like, just stop for a minute and just think about where you've come from. It helps you appreciate a ton. And even though we weren't rich or having all the successes that I wanted to have, we were doing better. And today I'm able to do that now. But thinking back to those times when you were young and the kids were young and we were really struggling, like we had no money. The car would break down or tires would need to be replaced. We had our garage door go out one time and our cars were inside the garage and we couldn't get them out.
I remember that.
And it was $1,000. And I was like, I literally don't have $1,000 to my name. I don't have $1,000 in credit. I don't have anything. And nobody would give us any money in credit cards because we had no income. It was bad. And I'm like, what are we going to do? So we actually, this is a funny story. First world problem again.
Right.
I have a 3-car garage. But we were able to clear out everything from the 3rd car garage and then take the cars and go
wiggle them out.
until we got them out of the garage.
Took like an hour to get both of them out.
Oh yeah, just the
just back and forth.
It was several hours of moving crap because that 3rd car
too.
garage was full of all of our camping stuff and bikes and things. But
Yeah.
But anyway, that's exactly what we were able to use the cars without the garage being fixed. And then miracles happened too, and we're grateful for friends and neighbors. We don't even know who did this still, but somebody paid to put a new garage door on. They saw us go through our little massacre of doing that. Now our 3rd car garage houses Roof Max, which is another business. But that's like, I was emotional. I was raw about the whole thing too. I felt like a failure.
Yeah.
But in a lot of ways, I had burned the ships. Have you heard that analogy?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I can't remember what war it was. Probably should have had that on.
Yeah.
But
Wish we had a Jamie to say, Jamie, pull that up.
Yeah.
That'd be nice.
Who's Jamie?
You know who Jamie is?
Is that on
That's Joe
Rogan's?
producer.
Yeah,
that's like a wizard with keyword searching.
You made me think of someone else when he said Jamie. I was
you're
like,
oh. Who's Jamie?
Yeah. I'm working with I know a Jamie right now. I was talking to. So anyway, I was like, Jamie, what? So yeah, I burn the ships. When the army got onto shore, he's like, burn the ships because we're not going back.
We're not going back.
Yeah. And I had burned the ships. Like I wasn't looking for a job. I didn't have other options. Even I just felt miserable. I felt insecure. I felt doubts every single night. We would go to bed talking, and Mom is super supportive. I'm really grateful for that. But in a lot of ways, I've abused it because I wasn't providing for the family. I had a much better ability to provide than I was accomplishing. But the idea of building is so important to me, and I really wanted and needed to do this, to prove to myself that I could or couldn't. And that still remains to be seen. So we'll see. But I love that song because he said, how can I tell my kids to chase their dreams when I'm not even chasing my own? And I can tell you that. I can tell you, and Cameron and Ellie and Lucy and Gray, and I can say, let's do it. Let's go for it. I'll support you in any way that I can because I'm chasing mine.
Yep.
You know, I'm pursuing passions. I'm going after it. At the end of the day, like, I'm most proud of, even if it all crashes and burns, you know, I go through these scenarios in my head. What's the worst that could happen? And I'm like, we could lose it all, right? We could get just completely, we go bankrupt, lose our home, lose all our vehicles, live in grandma and grandpa's basement. They moved. They don't even have a basement. I guess Grandma Miller has a basement, but it's like unfinished. It'd be like creepy. Have you been down there? It's kind of scary.
I've never been down there.
Yeah, it's not. It's like a cellar.
Yes, I have been down there. That place is way scary.
Yeah,
I just have like flashbacks from like when I was like 6 years old and Grandpa like scaring the crap out of me with that place.
Yeah, it's like haunted.
Oh yeah,
so we could live there.
Yeah, we could live in there.
So I mean, that's the thing. Like, we could completely crash and burn. It could all burn to the ground. But at the end of the day, I believe in my heart, I would feel worse
if you hadn't tried.
If we hadn't actually given it a try.
Yeah.
And truthfully, we have some great things happening, and that's the exciting part. But
for sure,
that doesn't, like, if it did fail,
right,
the pursuit of the goal is what matters most.
For sure.
And the joy I get out of that. And even when I'm really tired today, we've had a very stressful couple of weeks, just a lot of things all at once.
For sure.
A lot of it really good. So it's not stress from like, oh, this sucks. You know, it's, some of that is there because we've had a rough couple of years and we've lost some employees and things. But right now it's that piece that says we're doing what we wanted to do, even though I'm tired.
For sure.
Even I'm expressing myself in creative ways that I never even dreamed of, you know, and I'm watching it in you too. It's actually really fun because you've learned how to edit the video for these, the audio. You've learned, you did the drawings. Your drawings are, you know, being put to use in a way that they've never really been used before.
For sure.
You're doing your own TikTok stuff with art. You have, you know, and I watch our kids like Cameron. She's very creative, very talented. She did a YouTube channel for a while.
She did.
She went through a breakup and that stopped her.
But she kind of went viral for a second. She was getting like tens of thousands of views on her videos.
I know.
And she had a couple that like blew up on
she
TikTok.
had a TikTok that did 1 million.
Yeah.
And then
1 million views.
Yeah. And then her YouTube was really gaining momentum, but she went through a breakup and it kind of halted it. But I think she'll go back to it. And the beauty of that is, like, as a father, I'm just so pleased that you guys are pursuing what you want. And then, you know, Ellie, she's going after something she wants. Like, that's, for me, that's an accomplishment that I love, the pat on the back that I can say, you know, my kids are pursuing their dreams. They're not going into things with fear. They're not doing the, you know, the convenient, because the convenient is go get a job, go do the same thing everybody else does,
Pay the bills.
Pay the bills, go to college, do all those things.
Yeah. I will say this, like, on the flip side of all that, like, especially with starting Roof Max, but I think all the little business ventures that I had all through high school, like, I remember feeling so terrible after saying that to you, go get a real job.
Yeah.
I just remember that played in my head like over and over and over again. I was like, why did I say that? Because I didn't believe it at all. But it also like helped motivate me because I saw real struggle, but also that it was okay. It was okay to go through that, and you still come out okay on the other end.
Right.
And like you were mentioning before, that talking to your buddy from Whipple, he's saying, look at last year.
Yeah.
That's a really, you know, a valuable thing to do, because a lot of times we can get stuck in the rut of the moment when things are going to crap or things are going good but still really stressful.
Right.
It's really hard in that moment sometimes to see the light at the end of the tunnel.
That short vision.
You got that short vision because you got so many things happening all at once. But the other thing that I wanted to say is I think this is kind of an interesting topic and episode, because a lot of people see us as a father-son business duo. Mm-hmm. They don't see they see the outside where it's like in social interactions, and we are really close. We have a really good relationship, and like I think that'll always be. But there will be highs and lows where we have tension, and ways, we
Right.
piss each other off all the time still.
We're good at it.
It's not like this is a once in every blue moon type of thing. It happens
So true.
on the daily now, maybe not quite as big, but
I think that's
it just
normal in
shows that
families.
it's
too.
normal in families,
You
but
know more about each other than anybody else. So.
right. I think it's good for people to see though that it's not all sunshine and rainbows, especially between family. I feel like it almost, amplifies it a little bit, makes it a little more where we're at each other's throats because we have known each other forever,
I also think there's a piece because I've had this so many times in my life where people are like, "Man, you're so amazing. You built this amazing business," and I'm like, "Are you freaking kidding me?
Right.
Like I'm a complete moron. You should see how bad this thing does. Like you can very easily." And I think people from the outside look in, they're like, "Wow, that's so amazing. You're doing that.
Right.
You guys are incredible." And I'm like, we're just regular dudes trying to figure this thing out
Scraping by.
and not doing it very well. We're like bumbling through it, but we are doing it.
Mm-hmm. That's the difference is the action. You're actually going out and doing it. And that's why those people are impressed is because they aren't following their dreams.
Because they were like me for 40 years or 20, I don't know,
Sure.
but I didn't pursue it.
Didn't pursue it. Yeah.
I was afraid of not providing for my family, which came true, but
And that makes it a lot easier for me. Like my point of view right now, I'm 22 years old. When we started this, I was 19. I was like, I don't have a house. I don't have a car. I don't have anything to worry about. So it's a lot less risky for me. But it also made it 10 times easier having seen you guys pursue your own dreams.
right.
I was like, you know what? I can do this. I
Right.
can actually do this because I had seen it done before. Whereas I think a lot of people grow up in, and this is not like a bad way to be or anything, but like a lot of people just go to their 9-to-5 job. They pay the bills. They,
Simpler.
retire. It's a lot simpler and it's a lot easier. And it's not for everybody.
Right.
Or else everybody would own their own business, right? If it was easy, everybody would be doing it.
Yeah.
But it's not easy. And it's a big commitment and it's a big responsibility, but it made it 10 times easier for me to be like, you know what? Yeah, let's start this together. I'm willing to take on that responsibility. I know it's going to be more work than I think I'm signing up for. And I mean, like the last 2 weeks, I've had like multiple nights where I'm working until like 1 or 2 in the morning, just trying to get work done, just trying to fit everything in because there's not enough time in the day. So I got to work into the night.
Yeah.
And it is kind of funny that switching 80 hours for 40 hours,
Yeah.
or 40 for 80, working 80 so you don't have to
Right.
work 40. It's so true.
Well, and it had a
but-
different effect on Ellie because she's like, I will never have my own business.
That's
You
funny.
guys are nuts.
Right.
So,
Well, and I think I've heard you and Mom talk about it before where you thought I would never in a million years
I didn't think you would.
Because it seemed like on the outside, especially as a teenager, like I made it known that I was not happy that we didn't have money.
right.
And that I wanted to be cool like my friends. Now looking back, that's not important.
And we
at
live
all,
in a
but-
fairly well-to-do area too.
Right,
And
so it
we're on
didn't
the
seem like
edge of it, but there's a lot more money the further up you go. And so there was some pressures. Like you had friends where their parents made a lot of money.
Yeah.
You know?
For sure.
They went on big family vacations to Europe, and
Right.
we, even when we were doing better, didn't have that kind of money,
Right.
but we had enough where you could wear some name brands.
For sure.
Right.
Yeah. I did not go without. I
No.
just wanted more because I wanted to
Right.
fit in, which is just kind of a
Yeah.
teenager mindset thing. And now that I'm adult, I realize like, man, if I had a kid right now that wanted $150 shoes, I'd be like, heck no, dude. Like, let's go to Walmart and get
Let's
you
get
some
these
like,
ones off Amazon that
right,
are $40.
that are $25 on a special or
Yeah.
something. Like, I understand now that there were just things that were important to me at the time that
Yeah.
aren't important at all.
And those are good lessons for kids to learn.
sure.
You know, I
Yeah.
think sometimes it's better, even if you have the money, to deny
Yeah.
your kids some things and just say no. I mean, if you want that, that's great. I do like the thing of not saying we can't afford it and asking your kids, well, how can we afford that?
Yeah.
That's not in our current budget. What could you do to make some money to afford that yourself? Because it trains that mindset of go out and earn what you want in this life.
Go get
and
it
if,
yourself.
if you don't want as much, you don't have to earn as much.
Right.
That's okay.
You don't have to have those things either.
You don't have to have those things.
Yeah.
Right? That's a good life lesson.
For sure.
But yeah, it's an interesting experience. So great song. We'll include
Great
the
song.
link.
Yeah.
Listen to the whole song too, because it talks about the role of men in the home and some of the pressures that men feel, which I've definitely shared. Some of those nuances, and Darius Rucker talks about it as well. Very good. But this little piece with this,
That extra verse, that guy did a really good job with.
did.
It's a really cool message, and
yep.
I think it's perfect for this episode. You know,
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people get caught up in that what if stage and like,
Yeah.
what if I do pursue my dream and it doesn't work out? Well,
And
then who cares?
I think right now, the
tried.
thing I'll also say is if anybody's listening to this and you do have a dream that's in the back of your head that has been bouncing around for days, years, decades, maybe, it's time. Like, there's never going to be a better time, and you can't get better till you start somewhere. I say that all the time. But you also can't look back a year from now and say, oh man, we've come so far, until you get started, right? Today's February, 23rd?
Yep.
February 23rd, 2025. Can you look back on February 23rd, 2025 and say, I am better than I was last year. I'm closer to my dream than I was last year. I've pursued my interest a little bit more. I don't care what it is.
Right.
Go after something.
It can start small too. Like it
Start
can be a
small.
small dream. It can be something that,
Little side hustle. Or,
right. If you can't drop everything and go start your little bakery shop that you've been wanting to do forever, start small. Start selling them out of your kitchen, or
Right.
delivering them to people's houses. Like you can start somewhere.
Put
and
them in
do
your
little
trunk and go to
actions.
Walmart and sell them out of
Right.
the parking lot.
And it's the little actions too. It's the little things every single day that build up into something big eventually. It's the taking initiative right now to do something extra rather than just scrolling through TikTok or doing whatever.
Yeah.
So I love it though. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So cool. Well, thanks for tuning in, guys. I will leave whatever platform you're on, we'll leave all the links to the TikToks and stuff. I'll just leave that down in the description. As far as this episode goes, if you enjoyed it, leave a like, share it with your friends, leave a comment on any topics you guys want us to talk about in the future, and we'll try to get around to them.
Subscribe so you can see
subscribe.
our next episodes.
Yep. So cool. Well, thanks, guys. We'll see you next week.